a very good power panel up here, and hopefully everybody's going to have an awesome time enjoying what the panel is going to be all about. So without further ado, I'm going to get out of your way.
Phelan, thank you. What a gracious introduction you've just given us, and certainly made me feel as though I need to put on my Wonder Woman bracelets up here. Welcome, everybody, to Rockcliffe University. We're here this afternoon to talk about virtual worlds, a favorite topic for those of us who are resident participants of the Second Life environment. Particularly, we're interested in the idea of the transformative power of virtual worlds. This is an ongoing topic here as the experience of existing, working, playing immersively has its effect upon people, and the sharing stories is, I think, a favorite activity and probably even a necessary activity as we seek a deeper understanding of exactly what happens as we work and explore this place. So I'd like to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves. We have a wonderful spectrum represented here today, from the artistic to the technical. And perhaps we could start at the far end here. Deb, would you be willing to
well, it's a
talk
pleasure
little
to
bit
be
first?
here.
Thanks.
Are you able to hear me well, or do I still have mute on?
No, you sound good.
Very good. Well, I'm Deb Quintessa, and I represent my real person, Debbie Newman, from Working Relationships. And together, although Deb Quintessa, is the one that brings most of the skills to the table, we are into immersive learning, particularly corporate education, as well as neuropsychology, cyber psychology. We're licensed in the state of California as a marriage and family therapist, and so it'll be very interesting to me to see how virtual worlds contributes not only to immersive education but also to the helping professions as well.
Great. And Deb, I've visited the build that you're involved in and your work, and I know that you are doing some really terrific things, but I'm curious when your Rezzed date was, or how long.
Boy, when you ask a female avatar her age, that's really kind of going right for the juggler.
Give us a
I would have
general
to look
estimate.
at my profile to see my Rezzed date.
We don't need to know anything specific, just a general date. Thank you very much.
I think I've been on for about a year and a half. My Rezzed date actually predates my actual involvement, because when I came on in July of 2008, I thought this was just paper dolls on steroids and what a total waste of time it was. And it took about 3 or 4 months to be convinced otherwise.
You've had more than one visit here, I understand.
Oh, yes.
All right. Thanks, Deb.
You're welcome.
Ariella, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing here in Second Life.
Hey, guys. Well, I started out as a real-life filmmaker, and I focused on music videos, and I found out about Second Life through a new media class, and which brought me here, and I realized the potential to create media here, particularly machinima. And I had the opportunity to work with a bunch of different solution providers and some pretty big clients, some small clients, clients in education, etc. Yeah, the general gist of it.
All right, so here's the $64 question. How long has give me some sense of your Second Life tenure?
Can you explain that a little bit more?
I'm just curious. I mean, you said that you were introduced to Second Life through a media class, and I'm just curious how long you've been in Second Life and taking advantage of the platform.
Well, let's see. I've been in Second Life since 2005.
But
great. I kind of came in seeing this as a game. So I kind of grew up in, I guess, the desktop revolution. So I was used to, playing a lot of computer games and such, and the whole MMORPG wasn't new to me, and so I saw this as a game, and I don't think I saw this as a social working platform until actually a little bit later, where I was asked to do a project in a documentary class, and I wanted to do something new, and I wanted to introduce my peers to my life in Second Life, and I couldn't figure out how to do it, and it kind of forced me to learn actually how to make machinima. So I guess I've been doing machinima and working here for about 2.5 years.
Great. Oh, that's great. No, we're going to revisit that. That sounds like a very interesting story, but I want to give Mom a chance to tell us a little bit about what she's doing here in Second Life.
Hello. Hello, everybody. I am Mom, and I am part of the IEEE, which is the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, and I am the webmaster of my local chapter at DeVry University. And I heard about Second Life back in 2005 from a journalist professor who is still friends with me on Facebook through Chicago Bloggers Meetup, because I am a blogger. And she told me about it back in 2005, and I was there to teach her class about how to use Audacity, because at that time the whole Web 2.0 world was just getting a grip in the educational department when it came to journalism, so that's why we had the bloggers meetup. Oh, let me type that in here. Yep. Oh, wait, that's...
Oh, I misspelled it. Excuse me.
Yeah.
It's all right. We'll get that sorted out.
And,
But I'm very interested in the IEEE connection.
Oh, yeah, the IEEE. Well, I'm a network systems manager student, and the IEEE right now is working on an artificial intelligence learning center on their Sims for robotics, web, smartphone applications, etc. And we're trying to make AI as user-friendly as possible. Right now, we're working on, well, I'm personally working on the PR for the Sims, and they're coming along great. They have the huge robot lady learning center. It's very nice. You have to go check it out. Just type IEEE or IEEE, and
In Second Life search.
yeah, we have two Sims. There's a IEEE and an IEEE 2. The Artificial Intelligence Learning Center is in IEEE 2.
Great, great.
And our sandbox and everything like that is in the regular one.
And I heard you mention this, but I'm going to just ask you to clarify. How long in Second Life?
I've been here since August. I went through the learning curve pretty quickly thanks to the New Citizens Inc. Group. They have great classes that help me with the learning curve. So about time let's see, it took me about 4 months to build my own house, create outfits and gestures and everything like that.
Great.
Get everything together.
Get launched.
But I'm pretty much interested in the whole transition from 2.0 to Web 3.0.
Yeah. All right. Well, good. That's certainly something that is a very exciting topic. Thanks, Lom. Jenza, you and I know each other very well from Metanomics, but I would love to hear you introduce yourself here and talk a little bit about your experience with Second Life and how you came to be here.
Hi, Jeanette, and thanks, and we sure do, and I'm so honored to share this panel with you today, and I first would like to totally thank Bevan and Phelan and Rockcliffe for having this today. I'm pleased to meet these ladies on the panel who I didn't know, and extra happy to see the familiar faces, Jen, like yours, Bevan, so many that are out there. Well, I'm a bit of a nutcase scenario, they say, but I have a lot going on, apparently, but I'm real excited about all of it. I'm on the Metanomics production team. I think you're all familiar with Metanomics, and if you're not, you need to be. Metanomics.net. Jen will put that in text, I bet you. And
I know we need a little gesture here, a little Metanomics
right.
cheer.
We do an F2 key, but I'm seriously so honored and thrilled to be part of that project with Robert Broomfield, Buyers Sellers, and Deuce and Ryder with Remedy Communications, Jeanette Forager, Bevan, and all of the talented people that make that happen every week. So that's really sort of my passion these days, Metanomics. I'm also an entrepreneur and a developer. I'm one of those land people. Yes, I am. I have a collection of Sims called Muse Isle Connection. The oldest one, Muse Isle, is going to be 4 years old in April. And that's pretty amazing, I think. And we feature a lot of activities and live music events. It's a PG environment and just really kind of a fun place to visit. I was lucky enough early in my second life. I've been here 4 years myself, since spring of 2006. And by the way, I came to Second Life because someone told me Duran Duran was going to perform here, and I believed them. And I'm still waiting.
Eric Clapton. I thought it was Eric Clapton, Jensen.
Eric, I'm going to convince at some point to come in. But no, actually, Duran Duran was supposed to perform in Second Life, and that brought a lot of what are still the veteran live music performers in Second Life. They all sort of migrated here from a social networking platform called Pal Talk, where we all knew each other. It was an audio program, and people were performing live music for each other, just sort of for the love of it. And suddenly someone said, there's a virtual world where people will tip you. And that is all it took, and suddenly people ended up in Second Life, exactly like Neil Morrison. Hello, Ghost Speed Racer, good to see you. And I've known some of those folks, for 4 years. So I've got that going on. And let's see. Then I was lucky enough to meet a brilliant programmer who created a now beloved product in Second Life known as the Rendezvous Animator. And I'm happy to report that it's a very successful product. I market it. I'm the customer service representative and co-developer. We also created an animation system that's featured on Metanomics, and you guys have probably seen some of that, where I make buyers look like he's a real talking person and his guests.
He is a real talking person.
He is a real talking person. He's what we call a talking head. And lastly, but not... Yes, and lastly, I do want to mention, although there are many other things, but I'm also extremely proud to recently join a team of amazing people led by Mystical Demina, and that includes Jeanette and Bevan. I noticed the common themes here. Anyway, Extreme Reality, if you guys are not familiar, be sure to look that up. Look up what Mystical Demina is doing. There's some amazing technology coming in the future, and I'm proud to be on board for that as well.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Jensa. So clearly we represent a broad spectrum here. We have technical expertise, we have artistic capabilities, and we have the viewpoint of the educator who always has to put themselves in the shoes of the other person and think in terms of the perspective for someone other than themselves. And I guess my next question for everybody would be, how do you see this? How do you see Second Life? Where do you see the strengths and where do you see the weaknesses for Second Life? I mean, and how has that changed over the last few years? Who wants to jump in first?
Oh, I can give a few pointers on some technical weaknesses of Second Life, but
let's talk positive first, though, Lom. Let's look at positive first.
The positive part is the increased interpersonal communication. We are moving into a realm where the Web 2.0 world has increased our interpersonal communication without body language and without nonverbal cues. And then here we are in another level where we can increase a sense of body language and a sense of nonverbal cues. And I think that's why more people tend to open up and a little bit better than they do in the Web 2.0 world when it comes to social networking. Some of the weaknesses I found in Second Life is that it didn't really focus on the social networking part strongly enough. One simple thing I would suggest the Linden Labs did was they should have put a profile ticker in clients. Now, why do you think I want a profile ticker, or why do you think that would be very important to have in any social network when it comes to people filling out their profile and just putting more information in their profile than they probably wouldn't have had if they didn't have a profile ticker.
I mean, what do you mean by a profile picker? I mean, the profile is a very valuable tool here
Right.
in Second Life, and how would you expand upon it?
Well, I would have it so when a person first joins Second Life, they have this little ticker that shows that their profile is 10% complete, 20% complete, 30, 50%, 70%.
So an assessment tool.
Yeah.
Assessment completion.
Yes. Completion. Get them familiar with just the fact of looking at other people's profiles and the importance of filling out their profile, putting web links in their profile, just pretty much getting it so people, well, they're familiar with that.
So you really want to nudge people towards the social networking element.
Well, I think that's how we lose people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we lose people when they log in and they're looking around and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Right, they don't find anybody.
Or they don't find what they're interested in.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Lum. I want to just pick this up and talk a little bit about the machinima element of it, because my personal viewpoint is that the artists, in many ways, are showing us the way as to how to use this environment. And so, Ariella, I'm going to ask you to talk about that a little bit. You mentioned in your introduction that you kind of came to machinima after the fact. I mean, it is a relatively new media, right?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think with every new piece of machinima made, some kind of new precedent is being set. That's how new it is. I think between the 2 years since I started and where I am now, I've seen this medium pick up so much, and just technological changes in the viewer, such as win light, such as shadows, such as flexi, better skins, better environments, etc., etc. And I think a combination of the technology growing and a combination of more people coming in and more people getting better at what they specialize in has brought so much to the table to be able to create better quality work. I know in machinima, when I first started, it was hard to connect with people who did what I do. For a while, I thought I might have been the only one. I mean, I was trying to find someone to mentor me. I was trying to find whatever I could find.
So it really is a relatively small community.
It was. Growing. I think now it's grown immensely just in 2 years, and now there's ways to connect with people, such as groups in Second Life, more events, community events, and even the Machinima Guild, which is this huge Ning. I think it's got thousands of members.
Nice.
It's pretty amazing how many people do, create content here and do create machinima here.
And what is the outlet for this, Ariella? I mean, I'm interested in this because I think that there's a great deal of power in telling stories. And I think that this is something that Second Life, I mean, Lam has mentioned filling out your profile, which really is, in essence, telling your own story and conveying information about your own experience. And, it may be that it's different at different points in your development as a Second Life resident. But, I mean, as a machinima maker, you're definitely into telling stories, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's interesting is I've worked with different people. I'm a freelancer, and I kind of have like this unbiased view as what projects are going on out there. What I'm working on, sometimes the projects I have at a given time all seem to be relative, and it kind of speaks volumes about where Second Life is at the moment. And I know, 2 years ago when I started, it was very corporate-y and very, hey, do a sim overview, do a quick little, trailer. And
okay, I'm just one second, Ariel. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
It was very corporate-y. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
It was a lot of like big corporations coming in,
okay.
and trying to do, I guess, like a sim overview, trying to get foot traffic, trying to do more of an advertising campaign, more marketing.
Sure. Yeah.
I think.
No, sure.
And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, and feel free to kind of join me in the conversation. But I think that the way it's moved now, and particularly with the work I'm doing, is it's become more collaborative. It's become more focused on education and business to business, and specifically things that aren't a one-way street to selling something. Does that make sense?
I think it does make sense, and I'm going to ask Deb to chime in here because whether she realizes it or not, I think the work that she's doing very much relates to this. I mean, we went through what's called the hype cycle, and there was a big push to sort of use Second Life as sort of a retail presence. And what we realized, what people who were trying this out realized, was that interactivity was key. And it really was necessary. People were not interested in just coming and looking at something pretty. And Deb, again, I toured a build that you did recently, and I was very impressed with the degree of interactivity that you'd built into it. And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I think it is that very interactivity that is one of the greatest strengths of virtual worlds, including Second Life. I'm remembering when I thought this was just paper dolls on steroids, as Lam was talking about, onboarding herself into this environment. And I think as an educator, a corporate educator, as a relationship coach, therapist, as I bring people to this media, to this world, it's part and parcel of my responsibility, I think, to help onboard the avatars, to provide new avatar orientation cues and support, whether that's to refer them to some phenomenal gateways that are available or to provide some supplemental coaching and support when they arrive at the sim that I and my collaborators are building. I think a lot of this has to do, as I'm listening to Ariella and her wonderful observations, has a lot to do with what we came to this world for. If we come here thinking it's a game and coming here only for the game, we'll certainly be looking for different areas of support and different experiences than if we're coming here for business. And I know on my second visit, and the one that hooked me, I was invited by Anders from the Train for Success fame.
Anders Gronstedt, right?
Indeed. Anders and I were facilitating at the same conference in the real world, and he sent me an invitation to Train for Success. There is occasionally. Sometimes sometimes there's a real world when I can get out of the virtual one. But, what's really neat is when we come here with a purpose, we will find the people to collaborate with. We'll hunt them out. It's just amazing, the available resources and the generosity of spirit of the avatars that I've met. By and large, I would say my experiences have been, easily 90% positive and encouraging. There are some very, very talented people. So you can see that I've drunk the Kool-Aid, maybe more than my fair share. But the
So
potential is so exciting when you think about it. When I think about virtual or Ability Island, and I think about the clients I've worked with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease as an example, they and their families are really, as the disease progresses, confined to their homes. And it's very difficult not only for the diagnosed patient, but for the family and the caregivers to be able to leave and connect with social resources, peer support or support groups. But Second Life opens a portal to those connections.
It's a great point.
People with some of the right now we're really concerned about post-traumatic stress disorder and the implications of that one diagnosis and other stress and mood disorders on our medical system are staggering. But virtual realities over the last 25, 30 years have really proven themselves to be quite useful. In alleviating some of the symptoms with post-traumatic stress. So as we look around the world at all the places people are dealing with such superhuman stressors, I think virtual worlds opens a whole new opportunity for people to find healing, find an opportunity to learn, and also learn themselves in the context of the relationships that they make here.
Can I quote somebody real quick? Because
Please.
I got inspired hearing that, Deb. So Dusan Ryder, he said this really, really powerful quote a couple weeks ago on one of his posts. He said, "I call Second Life the largest collaborative creative venture on the planet today." I really like that quote.
Oh yeah, I know Dusan and I know his columns. I had a little bit of a problem hearing you. Perhaps you could paste that into chat. That would be really great.
Sure.
Thanks. I know the column that you're referring to, though. Go ahead, Jensen.
Right. Well, I was going to just add my quick two Linden's worth here. I, usually being the oddball, Jen's a misfit. From the first day, never saw Second Life as a game. I have never seen Second Life as a game. I sort of was like, they would call it like Second Pac-Man or something if it was a game, but it was Second Life. And I saw it that way from the very beginning. You can play games in Second Life, and there are many fun games to play. You can make up games, and just the global human experience to me is one of the coolest games I've ever participated in, if you want to call it a game. But I just think personally, I'm so excited about the future now because I was quite jaded at first. I knew exactly what I was coming in to see. I had friends who had been here a while, who had been trying to get me to come over here and check it out. And in '06, it was really a Wild West world here in Second Life, as everyone probably knows if you've been here that long. I'm so happy now that sort of it's making more sense to me that the explicit adult content and activity has been given its own place so that we can keep those things separate because we really do need to. It's only realistic. And I'm just so happy that so many people, I sort of say when you stop playing the game and you start living the life, there's sort of this transition that happens, I find, with people. And I maintain that, once you are in Second Life, it's going to take something pretty extreme to make you leave once you get it. And I just hope that the future's going to, open up for so many more people to get that part of it. And that's all I was going to say.
No, thanks, Jensen. That's great.
Oh, I have a comment too about the game problem.
Yeah, please.
In my interpersonal communications class, we were going over the virtual worlds, and the majority of the class were very negative, actually, about the whole idea of using any type of virtual environment for their learning experience or for work. And I was taken aback by it when I did my survey on my students and the teacher. The teacher was very enthusiastic about it actually, but the students that were between the ages of 18 and 25 knew. Why? Because this is a game. They don't want to mix it with anything serious. They want to keep it as a game, and it's not going to be taking, or they don't want to take it seriously. That was pretty much the whole gist of it. Even though when I did my presentation about how the University of Chicago is using it for emergency procedure training, because I had a lot of nurses in my class, and I went over the business aspect of it and the engineering, the science, I did everything and they were just like, no. I prefer face-to-face communications, and I prefer this and I prefer that. And I was like, well, people rejected Web 2.0 when it first came out. When I remember when RSS feeds and XML tried to hit the scene, and people was like, why do I need this? I already have 5,000 people on my mailing list. Why should I have them sign up for another subscription box, and it's redundant, and I don't understand the point, and this is stupid.
But
Well,
Lom,
Lom brings up a very interesting point, and it points to one of the bigger challenges that we're facing in corporate training and in other applications of Second Life, and that is the confusion over whether this is just a game or whether it's really a serious platform, for serious relationships and serious work. I think we have in our audience somebody who has done a great deal of research in this area, as a matter of fact. And I've learned a great deal from Light Sequent. She wrote a phenomenal master's thesis in 2009 and is featured in the new Learning in 3D book that was just released. And in it, she details not only the differences and the confusion over the various virtual world experiences and virtual experiences that we are encountering, but also helps us to begin to understand how this truly is a paradigm shift. Just as distance learning and e-learning was to worlds and 3D immersive applications are a paradigm shift to the way we think about delivering training and learning. And so it's, again, Lom is pointing out some of these preconceived ideas that would have folks in the boardroom and decision makers at the highest echelons of business kind of step back and be a little bit hesitant to jump on board, because we're working, we're not playing, and this isn't, the workday is not for play. So we have to overcome that obstacle, I think.
yeah, it can be difficult, I think, to try and help people understand that that shift in perspective and the idea that perhaps play can be productive.
Oh,
Well,
yes.
learning can be very serious without not being fun.
Yeah.
How was that for triple double negatives? So we do seriously fun learning in Second Life, I think.
Right, and we also... Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ariella.
I was just going to say, I think some of the best exhibits I've seen are have games, interactive elements involved. I don't know if you guys saw Futurework Institute Sim, but they have some amazing fun games. It's like you're playing, don't even really realize the learning aspect of it, but you are catching on. It's very subtle and very productive, I think.
And Ariella, maybe you could go a little deeper into that topic, because I think, again, just to revisit my earlier comment about how sometimes it is the artists that are showing us how this place can be used, taking us places that we hadn't expected. I mean, again, Machinima reaches out outside of Second Life. It helps kind of capture ideas and images and carry them across the web. And, you know, in many ways, the idea that you would have to actually come in here and, you know, participate and learn how to do all this, I mean, I think that's ideal, frankly. That's my personal opinion. But what we really do have to do is, of course, capture people's imagination. We have to help them grasp the idea that there's something going on in here that is fun and different and interesting and engaging. And so places like the Future Work Institute, with, you know, incorporating games and that sort of work, and also the Machinima.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
for that link.
I think I went to this great education event up in my area at UPenn, and somebody said something. I kind of live my life by quotes, so sorry if I keep quoting, but it's really meaningful to me.
Clearly you're looking for inspiration, and we all share that idea, so please feel free to share. That's great.
There's a teacher there, and she's like, you know what, the days of standing up in a classroom and lecturing are over. She's like, I can't do it anymore. I see day by day, it's not effective anymore. And cool. I think particularly for education, but also for any kind of training simulations or like teamwork scenarios, etc. I think we're moving into a new age where, I mean, I think this applies especially to the younger generation. They multitask. They're used to doing things in a certain way, and so I think having these interactive games that, you know, I think this entire environment is multitasking. As an avatar, you have to kind of keep in track on 100 different conversations, text chat, voice chat, etc. I think
it's a common conversation when you meet people. When you meet people in real life, they say, "Oh my gosh, I never could have done this before. Now I can track the text chat and listen in voice and watch the video and check out link in my browser." And you know, Second Life taught me how to do that.
Yeah, and I think it would play into helping students. I think, in particular,
where the technological gap with well, everyone thinks it's a generation gap, and it's moved on from being a generation gap to being a technological gap, because I was amazed this past Christmas when I went to visit my family, and my niece and nephew were so happy they got their first cell phone at the age of 10. And I was like, wow, I remember when I got my first beeper at 15, and they're looking at me like, what is a beeper? What are you talking about? And I'm like, wow. And another situation is when they had the trend of, I remember when, on Twitter, and I said, oh, I remember when you couldn't save a game. You had, if you used all your lives, you had to start all the way over at the beginning, and there were young generations replying and back to my tweet like, oh my God, how did you survive? You couldn't save your game? They couldn't even compute that, and you know, unless it's for their phone. Yeah.
No, clearly, I mean, things are changing very quickly.
Yeah.
Me?
Jump in there, Jensa.
All right. Well, I just wanted to, I thought Aurelia was talking about machinima and how that's evolved and what it's being used for, and it's so amazing now compared to the early days, because I've been following that very closely. If I weren't doing all these other things, that would be what I would be doing. I would be exploring that whole industry, and but instead I'm paying other people to do it. But I recently, just this last Friday, was involved in an event that I actually hosted at one of my venues. Someone else, Divine Destiny, here in Second Life, is in charge of this, but I wanted to speak to it for a minute because it was amazing. On Friday, we had 12 hours of live music at one of my venues, and it was all to raise awareness for suicide awareness and prevention. A project called I'm Alive, and I will paste in here the Christian Brooks Center, hopeline.com. The amazing thing is 1-800-SUICIDE in real life is going on the web, finally, well overdue. So people that are in crisis are going to be able to seek help online without having to actually, make a phone call. There's going to be live people networking and supporting. It explains a lot of it there. We held the event to raise awareness about it and to sort of announce the upcoming launch of that. And we raised $300. I know that doesn't seem like very much, but that's enough to pay for the training for 3 outreach workers. It's about $100 per. And it's just such a good feeling to know that. We shot machinima throughout the event, and I have someone right now editing that and putting it together. We did a brief interview of Divine, and we've already been told that this virtual world machinima is going to end up being featured at the actual, suicide prevention website once it's ready to go. So to me, that's sort of the viral power of all this. We're doing something amazing for a worthy cause. We're getting the word out in the process and breaking open some of those doors so that what we call real life, which I find interesting because avatars are people too. I don't know if we forget that, but I think that there's just a big evolution happening, and I think a lot of it is because of all the good work that all of us that are here as early adopters are doing. You guys are all doing amazing things. Don't let anyone tell you differently. There. End of soapbox.
Jenza, you bring up a good point, though, the idea of the early adopters community. And as much as, we share our common frustration at the difficulty in conveying what this environment is capable of, we do share this of being people who are ready to kind of move ahead and, solve the issues involved. And, perhaps we complain about it a bit.
We do.
But at the same time, this is one of the things that I marvel about at Second Life is the way that, I came to Second Life with really no experience in any kind of online environment, something of a minimal tech background, but to sort of meet people. I had the experience early on of meeting people who basically were very, very heavily involved in making, things work on the internet. And, it's when you are creating a 3D environment, a virtual environment where, you are making things happen like Deb's training and Ariella's machinima and Lam's technical education and, your Muse Isles. That takes a lot of code being written in order to, keep the entire thing working and keep the whole thing there for people to participate in and be be
it so does.
It's
amazing.
Jeanette, you're absolutely right. It takes a virtual world.
Yeah. It takes a really big village, people.
A big village. But I wanted to acknowledge a comment that came through local chat about 10 minutes ago, and I don't know if Mowgli Radical is still here, but Mowgli was talking about how virtual worlds and this technology is really opening up a whole new pathway to, and the way Mowgli stated it, face-to-face quality of communication, which is what attracted me here in the first place. With distance learning and with some of the flat 2D or 1D conference calling party lines, I have long been looking for some way of doing distance learning where there is an experience of, that immediacy and that spontaneity and that face-to-face kind of experience that only happens in quote-unquote real life. And, I think Mowgli is right when, pointing out that this really gives us so many more tools. And from a neuropsychological point of view, it doesn't have to be real. It can be virtual, and we still get a buzz from it as if it was the real deal. Our brain functioning is the same whether we're looking face to face to an avatar or we're looking face to face with the real person behind the avatar. It's so exciting, and I think that we've got so many tools here that we have hardly even begun to figure out what to do with them. The challenge, I think, for many of us, and for me in particular, is breaking the link between my real world habits and the possibilities in a virtual world. Light has pointed out in her research that we can become enslaved to some of our bad habits, and death by PowerPoint and sages on stages are as awful in virtual worlds as they are in the real world. And when you're not bound by physical limitations and geography and gravity, how exciting the things that you can do if only your imagination allows it.
Right. And, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Well, Light asked a bit ago, he asked me specifically if I thought that, what did he say? Everything, no, not that one. Do you think that machinima is the best way of conveying our message? And I've got to tell you, I think right now machinima is so powerful, you guys. Seriously, it's a YouTube world. And it's such a brilliant way to present our message if done well. It's still about content. It's about concept, content, form, and execution. You can't just film Jenza looking cute and expect, I'm sorry, Light, I can't tell by the screen name, which I'm seeing in the corner, and I'm sure you're lovely. But I think machinima, I saved Jenza. I think machinima is critical right now for people to really get busy with it, do the good stuff, use it to entice other people. It's such a wonderful portal, I think, for people to see what goes on in Second Life. And the other thing that we need to do that I know is hard to do, people, we need to come out of the dark on this in real life. We need to stand up for the legitimacy of being avatars in Second Life. We need to speak up and be proud of what we're doing in here. We need to go ahead and run the arguments with people. They've got arguments to run on us. They've got links they can give us and articles and stories and media coverage that's been negative. But we now have enough positive things to counteract that. And I just really think it really takes a million noob march at this point. It really does. It takes Avatars United. And we need to just be proud of being part of Second Life and not, I have people that are in here doing full-time gigs and their families don't even know they're in Second Life, and I don't get that, but I would like to see that change. Seriously.
Yeah, light is just
towards that end,
conversation.
Jenza, one of the things that Light and I have been talking about for a long time now, and that is, we're all doing this, and very few people that I know of could make a living here, although I do know a scripter who's doing quite well, actually. But we go to free lectures, we go to free classes, we go to free meetups, and you know what? It costs people money to run those sims. It costs us a great deal of time. And if this is going to be viable for people to keep developing, we really need to figure out a way to balance fee and free services. And I'm not sure, that's just another paradigm shift I think we're going to have to transcend, is how do we go from everything is for free here to, it's valuable and it should be paid for.
Well, I think that that's because we've approached a split even when it comes to open source versus proprietary. And now that the Enterprise Edition is out, that it's going to bring in a lot of people that are not going to be used to any type of hiding behind their avatar in a way when it comes to speaking up and telling people about virtual worlds in general and how it benefits them, because I have to do a talk with the National Society of Black Engineers, got to do a talk with IEEE, all in real life, because all these professors and educators and everyone, they're just like, would you please, we need to schedule this and schedule that because we need to get this going, and we know we're missing out on the boat if we don't do this and we don't do that. And so I've been asked to do 3 talks already
So, Lam, you're saying that you're getting speaking requests.
Oh, I didn't hear the question.
So you are definitely getting speaking requests about virtual environments.
Yes, I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there is if anything, when I've been to local meetings and everything, most of them say, okay, it's about time we have someone. And but that's probably because of my location. If I was back in Chicago, I probably will have an easier time. But since I'm in Ohio, they really need it here. Because I think Ohio State is starting to get interested because of what University of Chicago is doing. So now they're starting to look into that, especially for the medical center. And
Well, I think that there's certainly the phenomenon of looking at what the leaders are doing. I mean, we've certainly seen the example of large companies, entities, Ernst & Young accounting firm, IBM, Dell, Cisco. I mean, I'm involved with the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education conference, which is coming up in mid-March, and the Lindens have donated 20 SIMs to be used for this event, and Cisco has blogged about it on their corporate blog. I mean, this is an example of people who are in here using the platform and trying things out and getting results and then being ready to talk about it. And, this is very much a grassroots organization. It doesn't have any kind of sponsorship from any kind of official organization. It's primarily educators and trainers who...
That's so awesome, Jen.
...come in and use the platform and gotten results. So, this is a great example. I'm going to put the website.
And like look at buyers, sellers. Y'all know him, Professor Rob Bloomfield at Cornell. He is the Pied Piper for virtual, what I'm now calling virtual reality. I know that's a term not used very often, but if we think about it, there's sort of the bridge right there. We are living reality in a virtual space, so I'm calling it virtual reality.
It's a good point, Jen.
I like it. But Rob Bloomfield, since he became the Pied Piper for virtual reality, he flies around more in real life now than he ever has to speak about virtual reality. So, I mean, he's kind of an edge case. Well, we know he is, but he seriously, today, for example, he presented 3 different times today to his grad students in real life here in Second Life at the Metanomics studio. He had Jenza teleport over and say hi to the kids, and they're all cost accounting students, PhDs. So, they're very curious and interested in the economy in Second Life and how it's all working or not working, be that the case. And I just find it fascinating. It's just such a blend that's happening all the time, all around us. So.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our hour, and I would just like to thank everybody for being here this evening and joining us this afternoon, this evening, depending upon what part of the world you're in. And thank you very much to our panelists. I would also like to just talk for a moment about a conversation that I had recently at a real-life event with somebody from Computer Sciences Corporation, who is a participant in a Second Life project and also an ex-military person. And he was very interesting to talk to because he spoke about something called cohesive presence. And presence is a quality that we describe often here in Second Life because it's very clear to us that being here, and participating in an event or a project together is very much a matter of feeling that you're there, that you're participating, that the presence is very real. But what he talked about was cohesive presence, which is something that evolves when a group applies itself to a task that is difficult, that's challenging, that has perhaps some bumps in the road, and triumphs and comes out on the other side feeling like they've really accomplished something because of the fact that they work together. And they wouldn't have been able to do it alone. They only were able to do it because they worked together as a group. And so this is a term that I have just been very, very intrigued with lately, the idea of cohesive presence. And I'd like to throw that out here as we finish up talking about this this event, because I think that it's particularly relevant. But thank you again to our panelists and to our audience, and for your participation in chat and your comments and your questions, because of course it helps us very much to understand exactly where we want to go and what we want to talk about. And I imagine that Bevan and Phelan will be putting another one of these together in a few weeks, and so I would encourage you to keep your eyes open. Clearly, it's going to be an interesting event. And thanks.